All right, everyone. So this is the integumentary system model. As you can tell, it's a model of the skin. And starting out, we have the divisions of the integumentary system in the cutaneous membrane. So we have the epidermis that goes from this lower purple line down here all the way up to the surface. That is all the epidermis. The very bottom layer of that, let me zoom in a little bit, this purple line right here is the stratum basale. And the upper layer here, this dry, flat layer on top that's going to flake off, is the stratum corneum. Now for lab tests, those are the only two layers of the epidermis you have to know. Then we come to the layers of the dermis. So right below the stratum basale, we see where these pegs are. These are the dermal papillae right here. And so they would line up right here underneath the epidermis, stratum basale, and so that is the papillary layer of the dermis, and it goes down to about where these capillaries end here. The rest of the dermis from here down to the adipose layer is called the reticular layer of the dermis. So dermis has reticular and papillary. Epidermis starts from the lower purple line on this model to the surface. And if you're wondering what's going on here, we're going to talk about it in lecture, but this represents the thin skin on your body and the thick skin on your body. So they're both the same pretty much. We just have some extra layers here we'll talk about in lecture. Okay, and then at the bottom of this model, all of these yellow things are fat cells, adipocytes. And so they make up what's known as the hypodermis. So if you've ever had an injection with a hypodermic needle, they would have to inject that needle all the way through the dermis and epidermis into this fat area. Okay, so the bulk of the cool stuff lives in the reticular layer of the dermis. So here, for example, is a hair right here. So this top part of the hair above the skin is called the hair shaft, and the part that is housing it is called the hair follicle, and the part of the hair below the skin is inside the follicle is called the hair root. Now here attached to the hair we see a sebaceous gland. It makes an oily substance known as sebum, and it puts it on the hair, carries it up to the surface, and the purpose of sebum is to keep your skin moisturized. Also attached to the hair follicle, we see this red thing right here. This is a muscle. It is called the Erector Pili muscle, and it will stand this hair on end. Some other things we're going to see here, we see a few sweat glands. So here's this one. This is a sweat gland. And then here are two different sweat glands. This one's like the one I just showed you, just sliced. And then this is a different kind of sweat gland. These represent the apocrine and merocrine sweat glands that we're going to learn about in lecture on Thursday. Okay, so I believe that's all the structures of the skin model you need to know for the practical.